Then he took Saleh Hadjavica. With a sharp knife, he made a very deep cut shaped as a cross on his forehead, so that blood began gushing out. Seeing this, Saleh instinctively put his hand on his forehead. Then Dusan called him out again, put a small caliber gun in his mouth, shot him, and he fell.
Svak na svoju stranu sveta moja ljubavi. Sutra kada svane jutro krenut ćemo mi. Svak na svoju stranu sveta moja ljubavi. Voleo sam samo tebe, to dobro znaš. Što odlaziš, zašto rane meni ostavljaš?
None of these witnesses were called and none of this testimony was heard during the trial of the Vuskovic brothers. We have many names of survivors. Why weren't any called?
We couldn't get in touch with any of the witnesses that were there because a lot of them left the country. And a lot of them changed their addresses. You know, all the Muslims in Divic who were in the Chelopech Cultural Center left the area. Besides, some people were probably killed because, as you know, a civil war is going on down there.
The judge invited me to the court to testify. After thinking about it, I decided it was too risky. Then I talked to him on the phone. He told me he would send someone over here to the consulate to get my testimony on film. However, no one has contacted me yet.
The indictment of Dusan Vuskovic doesn't contain a single word about the forced removal of the men from Divic to Chelopech. Instead, both the prosecutor and the judge accepted the claim that the Vuskovic brothers fought against Muslim extremists.
They made a party of their torturing. They were cutting off people's sexual organs. They were taking fathers, stripping them naked and forcing them to have oral sex with their sons. Simply put, they committed atrocities you wouldn't do even to animals. They beat us mercilessly. Nobody expected to get out of that place alive. We were all condemned to death. They told each of us, "Your turn is coming."
When he stopped shooting, he said he needed a drink. In the meantime, he told us to collect all the dead bodies and put them in a pile. He told us to clean everything thoroughly, every drop of blood, every inch of the floor and the wall, so the place would be spotless, as if nothing had happened. All the while, we had to sing and collect the bodies at the same time.
We had to sing this one particular song to him. Who says, who lies that Serbia is small? We had to sing these Chetnik songs for stretches of an hour or two before the entry and after the exit of the army.
Ko to kaže, ko to laže, Srbija je mala. Ko to kaže, ko to laže, Srbija je mala. Nije mala.
On the 29th of June, we were sent back to Zvornik. Out of 162 people who were in Chelopech, only 105 returned to Zvornik. The rest were either killed or taken away.
I personally left a trace in the form of a passport belonging to my neighbor who had been killed. There was another passport there already, from where I don't know. It belonged to a young Muslim man. I hid all these documents so it would be known that somebody had been there. There I was, forced to leave my house. And it all happened in our so-called modern civilization. In a Europe where borders are supposed to be disappearing. In reality, this was a return, you could say, to prehistoric times.
These images of a Zvornik suburb called Kozluk were taken before the total cleansing of the village, filmed by a resident for a relative living abroad. They are the last record of a way of life that has now completely disappeared. While Dusan Vuskovic was terrorizing the prisoners in Chelopech's cultural center, his brother Voyin was just a kilometer away, helping to cleanse Kozluk of its Muslim inhabitants.
I was at the train station of Subotica in the north of Serbia when the train full of deportees from Kozluk rolled in. The Serbian Red Cross had told me the train was about to arrive. The image that I remember was the women and children getting off the train, rushing to this little canteen to get food. It just broke my heart. I felt here were people who had no past anymore. They probably had no future. And they were being deported by a state which was claiming it was doing nothing, and that something really terrible was going on in Bosnia. Here's an engineer from the town of Zvornik. He told me no Muslim had a job in Zvornik. A lot of Muslim people fled. The elderly and women stayed behind. He said there was a camp, and I put in my notes here KZ, you know, the German initials, Konzentrationslager. Near Zvornik, mostly men. He said people there were being killed and robbed. I think he said looks like 66% of the Zvornik citizens were Muslims, it says. And they were all taking the punishment. After World War II, when I was a kid growing up here, you would see films of people being deported in trains, and I had that very feeling. It was a state in operation. Railways are operated by states in Europe. Everything was organized from the very top. That man was Slobodan Milosovic himself, who must have ordered people to organize this thing. I had the feeling throughout, when I was seeing this train, that this was the tip of the iceberg. This was definitely evidence of something, but there was an iceberg below, and I ought to try to explore it, but I didn't know how.